everyone. We're here today to talk to Monica Royer, CEO and founder of Monica and Andy, a very successful retail brand, specialty retail brand. Monica, welcome.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bruno, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be with you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for making the time for that conversation. We're really excited today to explore with you, what the role that digital played in the Monica and Andy brand. We know that's kind of I guess it was conceived to be mostly kind of an in-person, a very kind of a warm and caring brand. If you can kind of just give us a little bit of what the timeline was like, and when you created the brand, what was behind, what was the need you guys seen in the market, and you wanted to meet. And later on, what is the idea? What is the role that digital would play in that mix? So that would be kind of, I think, for context to start the conversation, would be great.
Definitely. Yeah. So, Bruno, I think the one interesting thing about me is I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I'm not sure exactly how I got to this moment, but I will say this. I had the great privilege of watching my brother, who was part of the 1.0 of Bonobos. So the Andy and Monica and Andy was the founder and CEO of Bonobos, which was a direct-to-consumer men's apparel brand that launched in 2007. Now, what I can tell you is that as a family, when he told us that as he was graduating from business school, that he was not going to take any key financial jobs, that he was actually going to say no to every opportunity and to start an online men's pants company, we were deeply concerned. So we said to him, one, first of all, you're not particularly fashionable, so we don't know why you're starting a pants company. He's become much more fashionable over time, I will say. And two, I remember we were like, no one buys anything online. Like, why would people buy pants online? And so I was sort of forced, for lack of a better term, to have a front row seat for the 1.0 of direct to consumer. And I found myself in a very unpaid position at Bonobos that I like to refer to as the chief common sense officer. And so as Andy's sister, I found myself with, taking phone calls from him and being like, don't do that. No, definitely don't do that. But I learned a little bit along the way. And so when I had my first daughter in 2010, at that point, I realized parents deserved a brand that felt as special, that felt as much like a friend as Bonobos at that time felt to their customers. And so like a complete fool, I decided to also start my own business. And so that's a bit of how it began.
I see. In which need did you see in the market that you thought you would be kind of fulfilling?
Yeah. Definitely. So I think that there were two. So the first was I was really focused on organic, and where maybe I cared or didn't care as much about organic clothing for myself. I lived a plant-based lifestyle for about 10 years before I had my daughter. And I spent a lot of time thinking like, what are the things that she would ingest first? What are the things that would touch her skin? And all of those things became very important. And so as I started to shop for organic clothes, I realized that one, it was hard to find brands that really specialized in it. And two, even if it was organic, it wasn't necessarily soft. And so I had spent the previous decade as well working in the pharmaceutical industry. And as I had my daughter, I got through my maternity leave and I started to really think about this brand. I thought, you know what, I don't think I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to go full forward. This is sort of my now or never moment to do this. And if I don't do it now, I remember my brother saying like, it's now or never. If you don't take the leap now, you may never have the opportunity to. And so it started out really focused on organic clothing, but immediately, because I was a new mom living the lifestyle during that time, over the 3-year incubation period of the brand where I was really thinking about building it, it became a lot about community. It became a lot about loneliness and parenthood. It became a lot about meeting other parent friends. And so by the time I actually launched in 2014, the brand was as much about organic as it was driven by how do we build a community of parents that really focuses on what this next generation of parents is looking for.
Really cool. And how digital came along in that journey? It came like right on the beginning?
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is my favorite part of the story. So initially, we of course wanted to launch an online business. I mean, this was 2014. It was like the online was becoming like such a big part of how people were building businesses. And so I remember talking to my brother and we talked about, okay, if he built Bonobos again, we'd start it in the back of a brick and mortar store, but have online simultaneous. Because we knew at that point how important brick and mortar was, but also how important online was. What we didn't know was that brick and mortar would take over the first 3 years of the brand, regardless of the fact that we had a website. And the reason that I say this is we drove so much community, we only had so much product. And within the first few years of the brand, we did pop-ups working with both the CEOs of Macerich and General Growth. And so we had, I think, 18 physical brick and mortar locations, most of which were pop-ups during that time. And so it wasn't until maybe early 2017, we were having a board meeting where we were saying, hey, we feel excited about the growth of the business, but are we really building an online business, or are we building one that's brick and mortar? And that was sort of the point where we said, hey, we love brick and mortar. We want to keep the permanent locations that we've got, but we really need to be able to start to focus on direct to consumer as it relates to being a digital business. And that was more the birth of like really growing the business online.
In the idea, the purpose of the D2C arm of the business was what was it? Was to complement the in-person experience? Was to scale? Like what is the
direct to consumer? Like the digital business was to be the core, the heartbeat of the whole brand. But because brick and mortar initially was so successful for us, it became like it moved to a second chair when really it always needed to be in the primary spot. And so in 2017, we kind of placed it back in the primary spot where we felt like it really belonged. And that didn't mean we didn't put our all into the stores that we have. We love the stores that we have, but it just meant we weren't going to grow those as exponentially, because when you're a young business and you suddenly find yourself with 18 physical locations, like that's a pretty significant undertaking. And the challenge, as people look at it, is it's really hard to have an omni-channel team, because there's a team that you need for the stores, there's a team that you need for online. And so that's the dance and the difficult part of doing it all at the same time.
Got it. And digital had the kind of the same value prop, like in the digital space, like as people kind of didn't know the brand, let's say people didn't know the brand on the physical space, and they discovered the brand online. So the kind of the same elements of value proposition were at the digital space, meaning like the organic, community based. So we're trying to reproduce the things we're working on the physical space to you kind of translate it to the digital space. That was a strategy there.
That was definitely a strategy. So the idea was the brand standing for community, standing for organic, standing for softness and quality. Those the basic tenets of who we were went through any channel that we were on. But I think as people are thinking about, all right, how do we grow our digital footprint? The thing that was interesting about brick and mortar was the growth was easier and more predictable. If you build more stores, you get more revenue, more people come, you sell more product. It was like an easier equation than I realized, juxtaposed next to this digital business where you can grow much faster, but it was much more unpredictable how that was going to unfold based on all of these other factors that are more so out of your control. But it is somewhat addictive once you start to harness that power of digital, because you're able to just reach people in so many different areas that you just would be really difficult to reach just from a brick and mortar strategy alone.
So did it kind of in the end did it translate into different features or like functionalities like that didn't have like that you kind of explore further those opportunities to kind of go deeper or go different?
Yeah, I think the best part of having the brick and mortar with the digital business was this. It was that we got to see our customers and come face to face. So for the first 4 years, my office was in the back of our guide shop, our store in Lincoln Park. There was a lot of music, a lot of kids' music. That's like sort of like the playlist of what we did in those early days. And I had a 3-year-old, right? I was like, what am I going to do with her? So part of it was like art, music, story time, parenting classes. A lot of it was what I was experiencing as a new mom. And so living what our customer was living was so helpful in terms of building the brand. But I think having that physical presence allowed us to see what our customers were thinking and to make iterations on product and what we were selling and how we were selling it. It made us much stronger digitally because we were able to get that sort of intimate customer surveying. And that intimate customer surveying during that time was really what we were seeing in person. And that, I think, made a really significant difference in how we would build business.
Got it. Tell me a little bit of, if you can pivot a little bit of a kind of a fast forward. You guys super successful. Now recently you guys signed a huge deal with Walmart, right? So now it's a wholesale deal, a completely different scale. Are you thinking about that value proposition in contrast or in like complementing the current brand? And how do you think about, segregating or integrating with the digital presence that we have today? Because I guess it's a little bit of different of value prop and value creation for and maybe different audiences. I must guess.
Definitely. So I would say this, if somebody's sitting back and like listening to this and thinking about the business, I want to be transparent, and that my biggest learning in all of this is almost nobody has any real idea what they're doing. And you just kind of like fake it until you figure out what to do. And I think that's something that I've had to live by. I didn't know anything about building stores when we built stores. Did the digital experience is always changing. And I think Walmart was just such an exciting opportunity for us. By the time we had started to work with Walmart, we had identified that another tier of omni-channel was important, that we wanted physical stores, that we wanted to have digital as the heartbeat of the business, but that we were never going to have so many physical stores that we were going to be able to reach people in person. And so when Walmart came calling, we were extremely excited because we suddenly had the opportunity to bring an organic first lifestyle at the everyday low prices of Walmart. We had an opportunity to be in stores and areas where we probably didn't necessarily yet have customer recognition. And Walmart puts the customer at the center of every conversation that they have. And I was absolutely wowed by how exceptional their team was, from buying to planning. Like, you meet people at Walmart and everybody's somehow been there like 10 or 15 or 20 years. Like, it's kind of amazing the meritocracy that Walmart builds, and the opportunity to work with buyers who started out as the cashier in the store and then moved into store manager. And so everybody just has such an affinity and such an idea of how to monetize every square footprint of that store. And so when Walmart came knocking, we were so excited because we had been thinking, all right, how do we build like this bigger omni-channel business? How do we reach more customers? And the scale was Walmart was not what we had set out to do to begin with, but we were really fortunate that we had brought in an excellent like head of sourcing. So as you're thinking about scale at that type of a level, you really have to have your production and your supply chain right. And that was something that we fortunately had the time to perfect during COVID. And so we were just poised and ready. We work only with GOT certified organic factories. And so those factories speak not just to the quality of the supply chain, but to the quality of the entire ecosystem. My mom is an immigrant from India. I thought a lot about like, what factories would my mom and I be comfortable working in? And so we thought a lot about like the quality of the overall factories themselves. So we were just poised at the scale of those GOT certified factories to actually be able to scale with Walmart. And so it's been like a magical journey to be able to work with them and to deliver this organic first product at their everyday low prices, which has been an enormous opportunity and a great learning for us.
And how do you think about the digital component of that kind of wholesale in the Monica and Andy kind of original experience? Like, you thinking about kind of having any kind of overlap there, integrating kind of maintaining like separate lives?
I think absolutely. I think there's a lot of different ways as you think about the advantage of large scale for an apparel business like us. There's a couple of different lenses in which you can look through it. One of the first, and I wasn't thinking about the digital business initially when I thought about Walmart, I thought, hey, this is going to be great, even from a minimum order quantity standpoint, even from growing with our factories and gaining more exposure with the factories, the ability to have, especially like some of these larger orders where like you're minimizing SKUs, but maximizing volume is like a beautiful thing to be able to send off to your factory, as opposed to sometimes to more of like your digital business where you're going farther across SKUs, but maybe less across volume, because as you get to these digital brands and you come to their sites themselves, like you're expecting to see more than you might see of them in a retailer. But what you just struck on, Bruno, is a huge opportunity as well, which is people can discover us at Walmart and then they can come back and see, the monicaandandy.com business. And so I think as we think about brands that have really been able to scale, as you think about even like the really big folks in children's apparel that are like over 100 years old, and we won't use any names on the podcast, like their ability to be in multiple customers' closets and to be discovered in multiple different places, wherever parents are shopping is where you want to be. And so I think the opportunity to build on that is absolutely a significant one as we think about brand awareness, brand name awareness, and people coming back to shop our own digital business.
That's really cool. It's like how those things complement themselves. Like not only the digital in those different environments, the physical in those different environments where whatever people are, right, in the thinking of I'll actually augment the brand awareness in each of those environments, which kind of giving us a little bit of you guys were big in community since the beginning, as explained before. So, and community is such a great feature and easy to scale and create. I guess easier to create online with digital content, with than the physical world, right? So is that a feature that you guys kind of really tap into, growing the brand over the years?
Definitely. And I think the cool thing about what the team at Monica and Andy is doing is that, to the point that you made earlier, Bruno, like anything that we're creating content for Walmart is the content we're creating for our own website, which is the content we're creating for the stores. We don't really think of ourselves as an apparel brand. And as I think of other folks that are listening to this podcast that are thinking about building their digital business, I think you really need to think about putting the customer at the center of the conversation and really thinking about the problem that you're solving. And for us, we aren't an apparel company. We're an event-driven commerce brand. That event is generally people adopting, having a baby, any which way that people are having babies. We want to be there for those like first days, whether it's pregnancy, whether it's surrogacy, whether it's IVF, whatever it is, thinking about the fact that like so many parents are on what is a similar journey of like, how do I feed my child? How do I put them to sleep? Like, what's a safe car seat? Like a lot of parents across, whether it's our Walmart customers, whether it's our brick and mortar customers, wherever it is, there's so much that connects and unites us as parents. And so we really try to think about what connects and unites us and think about how do we deliver that content, that level of community, and that information so that we can feel like that first friend. And so for us, the product comes from that lens in a way to say, all right, how does this product make their parents' life easier? How does this information make the parents' life easier? And so I think we have a more unique type of customer in the way that people are shopping us. And we find that first-time parents, regardless of how they're coming into parenthood, are in learning mode. And so they're just like, teach me, there's things that I want to learn. And so if you can become a trusted resource for that parent, it could be the grandma, it could be the aunt and uncle. We have a lot of gift givers too. Everybody's excited about welcoming a child into the family. And so being able to be a part of that journey is special, and we take that seriously.
It is funny, right? I had my 3 kids 5 years apart from each other. So I felt like a first-time parent every time because I had forgotten everything.
Yeah. I mean, even it's so funny. During COVID, we got a dog, and I was reminded, not exactly similar to kids, but like I would have paid any amount of money to just be like, what do I do? Like, just give me a kit and be like, this is what you need to get this dog settled, right? And so I think it's like, it reminds you, anytime you start something new in life, right? If somebody can be a helping hand along that journey, then, we want to be able to do that. But it's so true.
Yeah. And do you guys use the communities? Some brands use the kind of the communities. I understand that you're seeing communities like an element of a creation of net new value for your customers, and creation of trust that will revert, of course, in a longer relationship, that will revert, of course, in new revenues for the business. But do you see communities, like you guys use communities in other ways? Like some brands use it for kind of a source of insights for new product development, how to evolve even the value proposition of the brands. Are there other ways you guys using the communities for?
Absolutely. So I think, outside of just like the traditional community where we're gathering people, whether it's virtually, whether it's from a content place, or whether it's actually physical, and getting people together to think about topics, like that's at the heart of what we're doing. But we're building a parenting board of advisors, and we're thinking about experts across multiple disciplines And as we think about building a long-term and enduring business, where should we be investing in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years and 20 years? We're building like a parenting board of advisors, which is something that we've always tapped into, but will help us to think even more about like the products. Who are all of the people that are initially on this journey? And how is what they're consuming, what they're reading, what they're thinking about, where they're getting their information from, how is that changing? Because I think the most important part of building a brand is the work is never done. The environment around us is always moving. And so we need to be able to move with that environment. And so I think it's not the information from a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago that guides us today. It's how are we constantly collecting new information, bringing that into the conversation and making sure that we're thinking about the evolution of the brand in that way.
Really, really cool. Well, with that, like, what's next in terms of digital for you guys? There's so many new technologies coming up and new possibilities for the business, as you mentioned. So, what's the next big challenges for Monique and Andy?
Yeah, I think we're thinking about two things. I think the first is like we're definitely getting more deep in personalization. I think we feel like folks have reached like a maximum capacity for choices and are sort of now like drill down and deliver to me what you know that I will like to begin with. And I think there is a million different ways with all of the tools and AI and like all the things that are out there. And so I think this year is going to be about what are the choices that we want to make from a personalization perspective to not just be serving up the community and the content and the information, but Bruno, how can we know that your children are 5 years apart versus you're somebody that's having a first-time child versus you're somebody that's but just what are the different factors that we can then tell you something more specialized for you? And I don't think that's unique to Monica and Andy. I think as consumers, that's what we're starting to demand of the brands that we love and say, hey, there's a million emails in my inbox. I'm getting 1,000 texts from different brands. To really catch my attention, you've got to know me as an individual. And so I think it's how do we do a good job of becoming more individually driven with our customers going forward? And I wish I had all the answers. I would give them to you right now if I did. But I think those are the things that we're starting to make considerations to, if you will, and really think about for the future.
I wish anyone had all the answers. Like what we learned in those almost 30 years and helping clients building digital experiences, it's probably the most VUCA space in the world. And the world itself is very VUCA, but digital space is even more, unpredictable and uncertain, right? So it's very hard. And you're right. I think that there's a massive opportunity with the use of AI to create personalization. A lot of our clients have tried to create personalization in the past, but it was just not practical. It was not like you have to create. If you go to create personalization strategies just out of segmenting and creating just all the content that's actually personalized, our clients rapidly understood that you had to have massive investment just to maintain that level of personalization at scale. Right? So that would cost way more than the licenses that we're paying for the nice customer the content management solutions that they're buying. And I think with the advent of an AI and Gen AI, I think the first time actually will make personalization achievable at a cost effective point. Right? So and I think that's when would that kind of actually happen in scale? I think brands at this point have the opportunity to kind of to be ahead of the curve before customers start demanding it, right? So these customers are not demanding it yet, but my guess is like when people get real use of those tools, of the chat GPTs and Geminis of the world, they will start demanding brands. Like, how come you don't have that, right? So then it'll be too late. Then
Exactly.
yeah, like it's like the mobile revolution. Remember the mobile revolution? How come you don't have a mobile app? And it's time to kind of start looking at it and invest and be ready before you have to respond and react to that customer behavior change. Right? So
Definitely. Yeah. So, and I think we're thinking about that. And I think we're thinking about brick and mortar again, too. And what does that mean for the future? There's so many opportunities. Like we've gone back and forth. Now we've got this much more significant wholesale business, and what does that mean for the channel that really started us, and where do we land with that? And we're exploring all the options.
Cool. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your generosity to share them with us in a very straightforward manner. I really, really appreciate your time. And you're welcome back here anytime. Anytime. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Wonderful to meet you today, Bruno, and your team as well. Thank you.
Thank you.